Good evening. Hope you guys all had a good spring break. Sunday night here, and put together an assignment for all four classes, trying to make math relevant to what's going on in the world right now. So, we're going to be looking at exponential growth today. So, all of you guys will have an assignment in classroom. Read it through. It's due a week from Friday. And let's get started on my part of the video here. So, as we start with exponential growth, let's look at the comparison between exponential growth and linear growth. Okay, so both of these graphs represent growth to some degree. Okay, linear growth, as we all know and have gone through, linear growth equation is y equals x. Okay, we see the graph of linear relationship, meaning the line represented by the equation is linear. It's going to be a line, right? So y equals x starts at the origin, and it's a straight line, up 1 and over 1. My slope is up 1 and over 1. Okay, so that's linear growth. Exponential growth is what we're going to be looking at today. Okay, so exponential growth means that you have an exponent associated with your equation. So in this example, it's y equals x squared. So when we see exponential growth, which is our red graph, we start at the origin again, and my points basically would be 1, 1. So if I plugged 1 in for x, 1 squared would equal 1. So that would be my point on my graph. If x were to equal 2, I would square 2. That would equal 4. So my point would be 2, 4. If I plug 3 in for x, that's my growth factor. If I have 3 in for x, 3 squared would be 9. 1, 2, 3, up 9. That would be my growth factor and my exponent squared. Okay? 4, if I had 4 in for x, 416. Okay? So we see the difference between my linear growth and my exponential growth, where we have a much steeper graph when we have exponential growth than we do linear growth. Okay, so it's just a basic look at the difference between linear growth and exponential growth. So now let's take a look at some other numbers and some other information. Okay, so now what we basically have is we have what's called a growth factor. Okay, my growth factor goes basically right here. Okay, so the equation I'm going to use, and the equation you guys are going to use, is EP, which stands for my ending point, my ending number, equals my starting point, SP, which is my starting point. Inside the parentheses is my growth factor. Okay, my growth factor, and then my exponent is going to be my amount of time, or the number of times that I'm going to raise it to that power. Okay, so how many levels it is. Okay, so as you look through the video today, one of the first things they tell you is a number called the R naught. Okay, the R naught, and you're going to have to explain that in your paper what that means. And the R naught is basically the growth factor. Okay, how much something grows. So your growth factor ends up being inside the parentheses, and then it's raised to whatever time it is, or whatever level it is. However many times, how many ever levels that you're looking at, finding out what your ending point would be. After 3 levels, after 5 levels, after 10 levels, or after 1 year, after 5 years, after 10 years, that level can be a time, it can be a day, a week, a year, or it could be how someone interacts with somebody. Okay? So, when we look at plugging numbers into our equation, okay, our starting point right now is 1. That would be me. I'm the starting point. We're starting with one person, one thing, $1. Okay? Here, my growth factor is 3. Okay? My growth factor is 3. And my exponent is 1. So that would be after one level or 1 year. So if I started with me and I tripled myself, I went out and let's say I touched 3 people per year. I touched 3. After 1 year, 3 raised to the first power is 3 times 1 would be 3. Okay, would be 3 right here. The second one would be same thing. My growth factor or my R naught would be 3 raised to the second power. That would be the second level or the second year. Okay, so the second year, my growth factor is 3. I square it to 9. 9 times 1 is 9. Okay, after the third year or the third level, 1 person is what we started with. My growth factor or my R naught is 3. After the third year or the third level, I raise 3 to the third power, which is 27. 27 times 1 is 27. Okay? So we're going to see and look at what the difference is based on what my R naught factor is. Okay, and you're going to learn what the R naught factor is by watching the video off of YouTube. So you're going to see what the R naught factor is. Your levels is going to be your exponent. Remember, when we do exponents, we take what my growth factor is, or my R naught, and I raise it to the number of levels, or the number of years, and then I multiply it by 1, which would just mean that number stays the same. Okay, that number stays the same. So, here's what we're looking at. We're looking at the difference in terms of what different growth factors would give you. Okay, what different growth factors would give you. Okay, if we looked at it, and let's say we had a growth factor of 3, like we just looked at, and we had a growth factor to the third level or third year versus a growth factor of 5 to the third year, which number is going to be bigger? The number with the largest growth factor. So 3 to the third power would be 27, as we saw over here. 5 to the third power is 125. So your growth factor is a main important piece of how much something is going to grow. For instance, if I had money in a bank and I earned 50% interest on that money per year, I'd earn 50 cents if I put in $1. If I earned 1% on that dollar, my growth factor is 1%, that means I would only earn 1 penny, right? So my growth factor would be 50%, or my growth factor would be 1%. So the larger the growth factor, the larger your ending point is going to be. All right? So what you guys are going to do is you're going to watch the video. I've laid out questions for you to answer. I have given you numbers to work in this formula. Okay, simple numbers to work in this formula, looking at exponential growth and how exponential growth makes a big difference in terms of what your growth factor is. So read closely my instructions on Google Classroom and you're going to submit a Google Doc to me by a week from Friday. It's due April 17th. Plenty of time to look at this information, watch the video carefully, and look at the exponential growth piece of this very pertinent information. And so, if you have any questions, give me a call. I'll be happy to walk you through anything. Hopefully, I've explained everything well for you thus far. So, good luck with this. I think this is going to be really relevant, and I think that you can learn a lot if you put the time in and really take a look at it closely. So, good talking to you guys today or tomorrow. I'll see you guys all in the morning. Out.